I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13, and let's focus on verses 15 through 18. During this time, I saw in Judah some people who were treading out wine presses on the Sabbath, and also bringing in heaps of grain and loading donkeys with it. Likewise, wine, grapes, and figs, and all kinds of loads. And they were bringing them into Jerusalem on the day of the Sabbath. And on the day when they were planning to sell food, I warned them not to. And there were also living there people from Zor, who brought in fish of all kinds and goods and sold them on the Shabbat to people in Judah and even in Jerusalem. And I disputed with the nobles of Judah, demanding of them, what is this terrible thing you're doing, profaning the day of Shabbat? Didn't your ancestors do this? And didn't our God bring all this disaster on us and on this city? And yet you're bringing still more fury against Israel by profaning the Shabbat. Now, when I was a kid, growing up in Arkansas, our city had a blue law that prohibited retail businesses from being open on Sundays. That meant that apart from a few restaurants, everything in our town was closed for business. And the city's leaders, along with the voting public, felt that that was the best for our community to rest on the Lord's Day. And the truth be known, every one of our city councilmen were also deacons in their local churches, so it wasn't that hard to get that kind of a law passed and to keep it enforced. And while they couldn't enforce whether people would attend church, they could make it nearly impossible for anyone to do anything else. And I remember when that blue law was amended to allow businesses to open after noon. That's okay, well, after church you can open. And then I recall when that law, not too much long after, was repealed altogether. And at that time, I didn't really follow the Lord, so I was happy. I mean, I finally had the opportunity. I could skip church. I could go shopping, do what I wanted to do. And if you were to ask Nehemiah, he'd say that's blasphemy. Now, a friend of mine recently challenged me by asking how well that I felt that I was following the fourth commandment, right? Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And then I thought about it and I realized I was not doing a very good job at setting aside a day of complete rest for the purpose of reading the Word and then reflecting on the Lord. And you don't hear many pastors who teach on this subject, primarily, I think, for two reasons. Number one, it's hard enough to get people to worship at church 1 hour every week. And then number two, if a pastor was to preach on this, hey, you should go to church on the Sabbath. Well, the people who would hear that message are the people that are already setting aside the time to go to church. But the idea of Sabbath is not just, hey, go to church. It's not about a weekly congregational meeting at all. Sabbath is about committing an entire day to do nothing but rest, seek the Lord, and worship Him. When was the last time that you committed a whole day to simply worship the Lord, forsaking all other opportunities? And for the most of us, sadly, the answer would be, I've never done that. And I want to challenge you to try it and see how the Lord refreshes your soul, as the Lord says concerning the tithes in Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. He says, test me on this, right? Test me on this and see if I don't respond in a mighty way. Test the Lord by devoting yourself to set aside His day of rest. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And your giving to Groundworks Ministries transforms lives. Would you consider making a donation to Groundworks Ministries today? Because we need your monthly support now more than ever. And donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. And another way that you can help us is to tell people about Groundworks Ministries. How do you do that? Well, you share these podcasts with your friends and family. Share them on your social media. You never know who's out there who needs to hear this. And of course, you can always direct people to our website, groundworksministries.com.